Welcome to episode 9 of the Think Wildlife podcast. Today I will be speaking to Prachi Mehta, who is the Executive Director of Wildlife Research and Conservation Society. Today we will be talking about the causes of human elephant conflict and some potential solutions. We will also be talking about WRCS's research on the very rare and elusive Forest Owlet, which was rediscovered after multiple decades across central India. One of the main projects WRCS is working with is human elephant conflict. So, what exactly is human elephant conflict?
So, see, human elephant conflict, and if I want to be say politically correct, now it's called as human elephant coexistence, but or interaction. But that is the way people want to look at. But if you say it is actually in my perspective or my view, it is actually a conflict. It's a conflict of interest. It's a conflict of resources. So, when human and elephant interact and they come to a particular level when they are very close and they physically also. And that is actually leading to conflict. So mainly for space, for resources like crops, water, and when both of them, human and elephant, are interested in the same resource, is causing the conflict. So very simply put, yes, it is a conflict of interest between animals and elephants specifically and people.
Why exactly do people want to call it human elephant coexistence?
So, yes, people think conflict is a very negative word and it causes negativity in people's perception that elephants are causing a conflict. For elephants, it doesn't matter because they are just, going their way and getting what they want. It's a war of might, right? Like elephants will stand there, and of course, people don't stand any chance against them. But in people's mind, if you say conflict, then it's a negative to start with, negative emotion to start with. So that's how some people view it. I mean, most people view it that way. But well, what is right is a you call a spade a spade. It's a conflict. So this is my opinion.
How severe is the problem?
So that is one of the major challenge, I would say, Anish, in wherever the elephant range is, that is in Africa and in Asia, right? So conflict can be of different types. One is because of elephants being killed for say poaching, for ivory, for meat, right? And that happens more in other continents, in Africa, and to a certain extent in Asia. So that is one. Two is also because of loss of resources, and mainly it is for crop loss, crop damage, and that is also a major conservation cause. And when elephants come to the crop fields, and then people are there, and there is a loss or damage of a harvest which they have planned for. Also, a property damage when people are living, which is happening a lot more in Asia, that is also causing a lot of concern and losses of human life also. And where it can really go wrong is when people also retaliate to kill elephants. So it's an angst towards what has happened, and they want to take revenge on an animal, and when they get electrocuted, they get poisoned, and so there is harm or deaths on both sides, people and elephants. So we are losing life on both sides. So this is how the severity of conflict is affecting both in Asia and Africa. So if you talk mainly about say India, I would say that because we are working in India, I would say that one of the main causes of elephant conflict is habitat loss, fragmentation, where elephant areas were there. They are getting disrupted or fragmented, leaving little areas, little area in term relatively what used to be their major uh, areas for roaming about. So one has to understand that elephants are landscape species. So they are huge. So considering their body size, they require bigger areas, more food, more water. So that kind of a space is now getting crunched because even human population is increasing on the other side. So that is why they're coming in close contact with each other. And that's when conflict takes place. And that is where the severity takes place more in areas where habitats are disturbed. So, like if you say in India, I would say areas like West Bengal, Odisha, for that matter, Assam. So these areas are really facing severe conflict because the habitat there is disturbed. Uh, Not that they have highest number of elephants. Highest number of elephants are in southern India. You know, the Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala. But there is also good forest there. But where I just talked about in West Bengal or say Assam or say Odisha, there is a lot of loss of habitat. So there severity is more.
How important are elephant corridors in mitigating human-elephant conflict, and what is being done in India to preserve these elephant corridors?
So yes, elephant corridors are extremely important for maintain. So as I said, you know, they are landscape species, and they will roam around. They would be expanding their range all the time. They cannot be contained in a national park area. Most of the elephants are like about 40% of the elephant population lives outside protected areas. So they go from one area to the other for foraging, for dispersing. And these are the areas which are very vital for, so these become the corridors and they are very vital for protection. Now in the corridors, you have all different kind of land uses. You know, you will have resorts, you know, just outside the national park. You know, you will have all kinds of hotels, restaurants, of course, at the cost of the forest. You have developmental projects, infrastructure projects, mining industries, so just because they're outside the forest or protected area does not mean that no wildlife comes there. In fact, the wildlife will use that area because it connects to the other area, other one of the other protected areas. So it becomes a corridor. So there are Project Elephant has declared about 30 elephant reserves in India, just like a tiger reserve. So it's a one kind of a protected area, but it is not. I would say it's not defined as a legally protected area as an elephant reserve. But there, what one needs to do is monitor the land use, monitor how people are moving in that area, because elephants are definitely using them. So, you know, if you have movement at the same time, definitely there's going to be losses of people and, you know, elephants. Because they just want to go from one place to other. Because that is their habitat. Once upon a time, that was their entire unfragmented habitat. Now it's been cut into pieces. So how do we protect this corridor is what you asked. And I would say monitoring the land use, because of course people also require space. It's not that people don't require. People will require their businesses, their livelihood. Everything depends on the space, even agriculture. So one has to have some judicious way of using these areas, monitoring these areas. And the corridors are very important for monitoring elephant movement.
Elephants obviously have a very large cultural significance in India. So
Yes.
how does this influence the humans' tolerance towards conflict?
So that's a very interesting take, you know, because see, because we have a very large cultural and religious significance of elephants in India, I would say there is largely a huge tolerance towards elephants. You know, there is like people consider it as Ganesh, the god, you know, so they definitely in their mind, the feeling is there. So when I go to my area and when I'm working, you know, to my farmers, when they say, you know, when the elephant is in the forest, it is like a god for us. But when it comes to my crop field and damages my crops, then it becomes an enemy for me. So out and out, they do not want to destroy elephants or damage or kill elephants. Generally, that is the perception, and that is why we have more than 60% of elephants in Asia. India supports more than 60% of Asian elephants, and one of the reason is because we have a deep cultural and religious roots, you know, for elephants. So, but yes, when the limits are crossed, you know, when there's repeated crop raiding, when farmers are losing crops regularly, and sometimes they are marginal farms who cannot afford, like tomorrow meal comes from there, from their crop fields. For the entire year's crop fields, they store the grain somewhere. Many areas, their tribal, the tribal settlements, which are raided every year continuously. So such sometimes people get very upset. I mean, I would put myself in that position, and I can understand the angst people feel, towards this kind of continuous damage, crop loss by an animal, and that is the time when your tolerance gives up, and you want to take revenge, and that's where sometimes, most of the times this poison kills elephants are killed by poisoning, and electrocution takes place. So yes, it does have an effect in spite of our deeply religious, association.
So, what are some long-term solutions to mitigate human-elephant conflict?
Well, I would say, Anish, Forest Department in India is doing a lot on their behalf. It's like they have what I call it as engineering solutions. So like putting up trenches. It's called EPTs, so elephant-proof trenches. So they are like huge pits. They are very deep, like 11 feet deep, and so that trenches. So they are like wide, and they have sloping ground, so that if the elephant cannot negotiate this, because it's very deep and very slippery, and it's deep. So they are supposed to prevent elephant from crossing over. So that is one. And secondly is solar fences or electric fences, which gives out, shock to the animal which is passing through. And sort of supposed to be a deterrent. And then there are, so these are some of the measures which the forest department regularly employs. They also give ex gratia to the people who have suffered crop losses or human loss of life. So just to sort of soothe them and give them some relief, immediate relief. So these are the solutions which forest department offers. Also capturing problem elephants. When you know that the elephant is a habitual crop raider coming to, or coming there, or has have had unfortunate encounters. I won't say elephant kills people deliberately unless they're provoked. This is my perception. Elephants are herbivores. They are not interested in human meat or any other meat. So what I'm trying to say is that when these unfortunate encounters take place by people getting killed, and there's a demand from local people in the department, we capture this elephant and keep it in captivity, which I find is very sad. It's almost like killing an elephant. But these are some of the measures which the forest department employs. I would not say these are long-term solutions. The long-term solutions should be in planning, better land use planning, monitoring habitats, because wherever the habitat is degraded, we need, so elephants need forage. They are basically graziers. They need grass, they need bamboo. So if your habitat is fragmented, definitely the food is shrinking, amount of food available. So habitat restoration would go a long way in keeping elephants within that area for some time. And well, I also feel that preventing encroachments on elephant habitat, that is very important, because everybody wants to expand. So agriculture expansion is taking place everywhere. So people want one tree, two trees, three trees. They just keep going inside and inside the forest. More of land requirement. So such things also need to be monitored. At the same time, the infrastructure projects like railings and roads, because that also results in killing elephants. Many of them, almost in Northeast Asia, you have so many elephant kills on rail bits. So these, I mean, there are many, the department, forest department, Project Elephant, and many other organizations are also working, towards this, and it is yielding results in certain areas.
A lot of times, feds are used to prevent elephants from wandering off to croplands and human settlements. So why are fences not always the best solution to mitigate human-elephant conflict, and what impact does it have on elephants?
So see, fences are kept to exclude, the elephants inside. As I just said that, if it's outside a national park or a protected area, it's not going to help because elephants cannot be contained there. Fences also require continuous maintenance. So if some grass twigs will be touching the lower rung of the solar fences, it's not going to give out the electric current and it will fail. Elephants are extremely intelligent animals. Okay, and when they want to go, so when there is a will, there's a way. They are always, and because of their might, they can just negotiate the toughest of the fences. If you go and see some of the videos on YouTube of how elephants, breach the trenches or the fences, it's amazing how much they understand about where is the weak link. So they will get one, a big tall tree and they'll put it on the fence, make it flat. The wires would just go down and then, they'll easily walk across. So they're sort of mocking at our own, intelligence that, we think we are smart, but they are two steps smarter than us. So, but fences can work if a private owner, like, if I have a farm and if I take responsibility of maintaining my own fence, daily I have to see and maintain that no grass is touching the fence. And it is all the current is running through the battery, the panels are charged. Then yes, it can be an effective deterrent till the elephant learns to negotiate. So the older fences with four poles and four strings, that elephants have learned. So now there are new variations of fences, like hanging fences have come, and they are now being deployed in certain areas, and we are yet to see the effectiveness of these. But yes, fences for a bit or trenches, what I would say, or over a long stretch of land will not work because there is no one to take responsibility to maintain it. Two, elephants are very smart. Even people make their, they cut across because they want to go across. So they will make short pathways, and elephants, no, elephants will use that pathway to come inside. So, where one has to put the trench or a fence, it has to be very understood in a studied, decision. If you put a trench or a fence outside a protected area, just between the two protected, it's not going to help because elephant will find a way. People will also find a way to get inside. So these are some of the shortcomings of the fences. But if maintained well, if someone takes the responsibility, it can work till the elephant learns how to reach it.
So in South India, beehive fences are being used quite popularly to mitigate human-elephant conflict. So what makes beehive fencing such an effective solution?
So let me tell you a small story, Anish here. Since 2009, I had gone to China for one of the elephant meet, and that's where I met this young, researcher. Like I was also there, and Lucy King. She's from Africa. I don't know you must have heard. She's working there, and she and I we connected, and we were discussing. She said, she just almost whispered. She said, Prachi, you must try this. I am doing this experiment I'm doing my PhD, and we are looking at the bee sound as a deterrent for elephants because we have observed that elephants do not go close to any tree which has got beehives. They are because they're scared of the bees getting into their eyes and ears, and we are trying all kind of experiments with the sound of the bees, and that was quite interesting. And then she gave me the buzzing sound of the African bees, and this was 2010, about 10 years back. And then I came back and we tried just the sound. And I have seen this with my own eyes. There was a tusker, yeah, two tuskers nicely feeding on a paddy field. With the sound, they just looked very bewildered. And they thought the bees had come. So they pick up sounds very well. Elephants have extremely good olfaction, hearing capacity. And when they heard it, they started flapping their ears. The tails went up, and they left the field within 2 minutes. And you won't believe the atmosphere. The farmers were so jubilant. They said, "You just have to give us this call, the sound." This is really working. So we said, look, wait, because we know the elephants get habituated very quickly. They will very quickly find out. That there is just a sound and there's an empty thread and no bees are coming. So we said, let us do some experiments. So we actually did some experiments on captive elephants in Sacrebel, where I was working. There was an elephant camp. We hid the bee sound and we observed the elephant behavior, and we saw that the elephants started, flapping their ears, flapping their tails, thinking that bees are close by. Understanding this, then of course I was in touch with Lucy, and we just exchanged notes, and she said, yeah, so why don't you try more of this experiments. So when we also went ahead, a step ahead, and when we tried actual beehives. So we put tree logs. If you've seen that this elephant bees, sometimes they actually make hives on a tree trunk or on a hollow logs. So we tried with that. Like, we just put up hollow logs on the boundary, and we tried to get the bees colonize it naturally. Because if you release captive bees, they're difficult. They will leave. So we tried with that, and we got good success. That's for some reason. And so the logic behind this is that when we put it as a fence, we try all the logs with a thread or a rope, and it's like a fence. So if elephant is trying to enter, it will have to move the log. And if it is colonized, the bees would come out. If we disturb, and they would buzz. They'll buzz and they will try to be around the elephants. They'll attack the elephants, and then elephant would not come inside. So this actually worked because elephants sometimes smelled the bee from far. The bee, sorry, I meant to say the honey, because they colonize and there was a smell of honey. So as you know, elephants also have very good sense of smell. So they did not really come close to the beehives, and they circumvented the path and went from areas where there were no beehive fences or something. So it also, was useful as a physical deterrent. So we started this work and we saw this and we were very happy. And in addition to that, the farmers got honey from that beehive. So it was like a win-win for them, that elephants didn't come and they are able to harvest honey. So in our area, they could at least go up to 20 kg. So this worked very well till 2018, I would say. After that, for some reason, the bee population has been affected because of pollination, generally all over the country and everywhere. So now we are trying with different, like bee boxes and all. But yeah, beehives can work if it is maintained and it is done well. So we also gave out these methods in other areas, and I think that it has a potential, but it has to have a source of colonizing. Beehives cannot just, bees will not colonize anywhere. They require certain type of forest, certain type of pollinating agents, and certain temperature where they will want to colonize. So a lot of experiments have to be done, but yes, it is a potential useful tool. But yeah, I would say that one thing, if there are bears in that area, then one should avoid, because then it will get into another conflict, of bear people conflict, which is also very nasty. If bears come close to your houses and farms. So, one has to not blindly just adopt anything. You have to look at what is really feasible and possible in that.
WRCS is working in Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh to mitigate human-elephant conflict. So, what do you guys do in these areas?
Yes, so Anish, we actually, when we started the work, we went to several states in India to understand how people are, doing. Forest department is doing, other institutes, other organizations. And one thing which we felt was that, in none of the, most of the areas, the farmers are not involved in protecting their own crops. They just wait for the forest department or there's some squads to come and help to chase the elephants out of their crop fields. They just, no, these are department's cattle, which is, we have nothing to do with. So we thought, see, unless in the forest department, how many people they will employ? You know how when they are working whole day, they have other duties to do, and then at night they said they have to send the staff in to drive away the elephants. So this is what we were thinking, that that is why they just switch off their phone, and they are overworked, with staff, and they cannot be going at every place. So we thought, like, why don't we involve the farmers themselves in protecting their own crops. So when we put this idea, and this is called community-based conflict management, which is quite popular in Africa, where people have tried. Some scientists like Osborne, Loki Osborne, and they have been the pioneers of this method. Trying to show low-cost methods to farmers who can employ it themselves. So we really like this idea, and we try to do it in North Karnataka. So when first few years was like complete, they were like they said, no, no, what are you going to give us? The farmers said, "Well, are you going to give us torches? Are you going to give us crackers? What will you come at night?" I mean, they would call us, our team, come now, elephants have come and whisk them away. Do the crop guarding for us. So we said, look, we are not going to do this for you. We are going to train you. So first few years just went in demonstrating a few measures, like, you can do night guarding from a safe place, on a tree, not sitting on the ground. So if you have a proper tree, make a proper tree watchtower, cover it with a proper tarpaulin so you don't get rains or very cold. You have a torch with you. So we have to start with basics. We have to put up demonstration plots. Then we started with a very simple thing called a triple alarm, like a burglar alarm. So it's the same thing. Like somebody breaks into your house, it will just go, have a huge siren. Uh, so that loud noise, it deters the elephant, thinking that there's somebody there, and it also alerts the farmer that the elephant has come. So this is a very simple method and a very simple logic. It does not give a shock to the elephant, but yeah, it alerts the farmer that, oh, the elephant has come at my doorstep or in my farm. I have to go. And the elephant thinks, oh, there is some people are there. See, in my understanding, people's presence is the main deterrent for elephants. When they know that there's somebody guarding, because elephants are also scared of people. It's not that they are not, especially ones with the calves and all. They do not want to take the risk. Tuskers is a different ball game. Tuskers are massive and they are full of testosterone and they just are their bullies, right? But when the groups are there, they'll think twice for coming in a place when there are people there guarding. So they will take the shelter of the forest. So we understood this behavior and we started giving them, these options like trip alarm, night guarding, chili deterrents, chili based deterrents. Now it might sound like chili smoke, sounds like a joke to many people. It's so simple. But it is actually causing a physical discomfort to the elephant when it's done in a proper way. So we have various chili deterrents like tin chili smoke, chili bricks, chili dung cakes. We demonstrate all this to the farmers. So first few years they just okay, you do it for us, and then when they saw the results, that, oh, the elephant had come, but I had put this chili smoke. We heard the elephant sneezing, we heard the elephant coughing. The farmers would say, and it has just gone away from there. It did not come. So it takes time to change the mentality of the people, but this is what we are working. And we feel that there is potential in this method where farmers take responsibility and they are involved in crop guarding themselves. So of course there are many, sometimes it fails like any other method. The batteries, the alarm battery didn't go off, or the farmer didn't wake up, or things like that, or the wind direction was in the wrong direction, that the chili smoke came this way instead of the elephant way. So this can happen, but does not mean that it is a failed technique. One has to keep on improving, and improvising and getting to new methods which can really help. So this is what our project is about. We do bee fencing. Whatever possible is to just keep the elephant out of the crop field. So once they start feeding, it's very difficult to remove them. But just deter them from entering the crop is what we are trying.
Another project you guys are working at WRCS is the Forest Owl project. So, what is so unique about the species?
Oh, I love that project. So, I you just said something about my most favorite project and bird. So, we are working on an owl species. So, this is a forest owlet, which is an endangered owl. It's an endemic to India. It's a small owl, about 19 centimeter, and it is found in very isolated small populations in central India. Central India in Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, and part of Gujarat state now. So they are, it has a very patchy distribution. So uh, we started working on the ecology of this species to understand why it is found in certain areas or in certain forest areas. While similar owls like the common ones, the spotted jungle owlet or the scops, they are all similar sized cavity nesting owls, also coexisting with the forest owlet, but they are widely distributed. So we are trying to understand what are the ecological covariates of the species, what are the requirements of the species, what is its diet, is it so specialized that it is found in certain areas, the breeding requirement, what are the conservation causes, the concerns for the species, and how does one protect this endangered owl, a small bird, which is overlooked by most people because it's a small owl. And interestingly, it's a diurnal owl. So most owls are nocturnal, as you know. And so this is a diurnal owl. So it's living with these large raptors, diurnal raptors like other eagles and kites and buzzards, and it's making its own living. So we are addressing these questions about the forest owlet.
So, what are some threats faced by the forest owlet?
So as I said, they are cavity nesting owls, so they do not make cavity by themselves. Their cavities are made by some woodpeckers and barbets, so or some fallen branch. So in order to survive any species, they need to propagate themselves to have a good breeding success, right? So the forest owlet breeding success has to be better, and it has to all its breeding attempts have to be successful. So sometimes if the cavities are not there or cavity trees are cut, during the timber logging operation or by local people for their own, needs, because they don't see the cavity, there is a big tree and it is useful and we can take it down. Even for timber logging operations, it's a tree which is cavity, it's a snag which is dying, so let's cut it out. But so this is very important for the forest target, in the presence of cavity bearing trees, its habitat. It also feeds on rodents, and so if there is pesticide use or rodenticide use, it will be feeding on poisoned prey, and that is also it will affect its breeding success. So third thing I would say is not only for the forest rat but for other owls there is superstition. People believe that owls are bad omen, or they are the harbingers of death, and they are also caught for sorcery, black magic. Not the forest owlet only, but mainly the big owls. So, considering the kind of ecological services these owls provide, by feeding on the rodents and agriculture pests, they are facing a lot of pressure due to these, whatever I said, habitat loss or tree cutting or unavailability of cavity or poisoning or say trade, or and also a misconception about them in amongst people's mind. So these are the threats one needs to address for their conservation.
So, could you just briefly talk about some of the other projects WRCS is doing?
Yeah, sure. So we have a very long-term project which is going on protection of a forested area. So this is in southern Maharashtra. So between two sanctuaries, a national park, there is a corridor, and this is not a private forest. So this is a reserve forest, and the farmers, this is a community land. So most farmers just cut the trees and sell it off. So we are trying to protect this entire patch, the corridor, by planting in the farmer's land, by doing plantations for them, protecting the plantations for them, and making sure that these trees survive. So there's a corridor which is protected, between the two areas, and this is very vital corridor for tiger movement. So that project is going on, and so we are restoring forest on private land. So what the government has been talking about, so that we are doing for last 12 years, and it's showing very good results. Now farmers are coming forward and sending applications that yes, I also want a standing forest on my land. I will not cut it. I promise you that, they'll say that, okay, I promise, I'll assure you that I won't cut it. And we are trying to give them some other livelihood options if possible, like, making homestays in their houses so that they get some income. So the income should not come through the cost of the forest, but by through other alternatives. So that is one of the projects. We are also doing monitoring of tiger in Satpura, in the central Indian landscape, tiger and other co-predators. We have also been doing education for nature education project for tribal children, but in a different way, so making it more interactive. So such as some of the projects which we are working.
And my final question is that how can people contribute to WRCS's work?
uh, People contribute is by we would say that there is we have certain a very unique program, Anisha. I'll tell you, we wherever we work, the local communities, we have trained them in some handicraft items, so we go and we teach these people how to make owl bags, elephant bags, whichever species they are sharing the landscape with. So because we want them to think that this is just some money is coming from somewhere, by making this products. So they make beautiful hand stitched or hand painted products, and we try to market it. And those products are there on our shop, and they are very nominally priced. They're genuine handicraft, and if people buy that, the local people will keep getting some kind of income. So we give them money, and they stay associated with conservation cause. Now their conversations change. They say, "Oh, look, my elephant is better than yours." In such areas, we feel they will not do any retaliatory killings against elephant. When that feeling comes of belonging, when they take pride in the species they're living with. So it's the same thing with the owls. When we have cavity-bearing trees in their farm, we say that, look, don't cut this tree. No, but then I need it. They say, I need money. Okay, so I'm giving you this handicraft. The women in your house, they're sitting. Can we train them in handicraft? And first they said, no, no, we don't know. Right from drawing to stitching to painting, we have been handholding them for last now. It's been 2016 we started this program, so it's almost 6 years. And they make beautiful products. Of course, we are not into business of this, marketing and all. So it goes very slow. But yes, these are very beautiful products. If people buy it, it gives a good message, and it encourages the local community.
So that is my final question for the interview. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Anisha. I hope it.
On that note, I would like to end by mentioning that Think Wildlife Foundation is supporting many conservation organizations around India upscale their alternative livelihood initiatives so that they can not only have a larger impact on wildlife conservation but also for the local communities which live around them. You can view these collaborations in the links provided below and even get your own merchandise from these local communities. 90% of the revenues are donated directly back to the local communities responsible for producing these products.